According to FBI statistics that I read recently, a burglary occurs approximately every 14 and a half seconds in America. Burglaries make up a big part of property crime in the United States. Burglaries, home invasions. Your home is your castle. Your home is your fortress. And you need to protect it and see it that way. You know, it's your responsibility, if you're the man of the house, the woman of the house, whatever the case may be, it's your responsibility to protect your family and your possessions at all costs. You owe it to yourself and to your family to stay alive. My family is the greatest possession I have. Without family, we're nothing. We're community people. Whether you like to think that you're a loner or not, human beings are community people. They like to be around other people. Maybe not as many as some other people, but still like to be around other people. You know, you'd be naive to think if you have food, supplies, stuff like that, you'd be pretty naive to think that people won't come and attempt to take that stuff from you after a disaster. And even before a disaster. You know, like I said, just everyday burglaries occur every 14 and a half seconds. That's a lot. And that's a ridiculous amount. So we need to take some steps to help kind of fortify our residence now, our house. There's a lot of people out there like myself that can't afford to have a bunker. You know, if I had the money, I'd definitely love to have an underground bunker or something like that, but I don't have that kind of money. So I need to take the steps that I can do now, some of which are pretty cheap and inexpensive to do, to help protect yourself and your family, to kind of prevent these types of things from happening. Let's take, Hurricane Katrina, for example. That was a pretty major disaster in the United States. How long after that disaster happened did the looting start? A couple of days, maybe. So, think about, if you're in your neighborhood, think about how many people know that you have supplies and food on hand, and how many of those people do you think will be coming and knocking on your door or attempting to take your stuff after a disaster? So you need to think about that stuff. So let's talk about stuff like home security. This video is going to be in two parts. I'll do the first part in home security. The second part we're going to do more of home security and personal protection. We're going to go into more of the firearms, survival firearms, stuff like that in the second part. So for this part, let's talk about just home security for a little bit. There's a lot of things you can do now to protect your home and to get your home ready. Stuff like monitored alarm systems. They're very, very good to have. They've come a long way in their time. So monitored alarm systems, you can do a lot with them. You can get cameras installed now. You can access all that stuff remotely. There's so much stuff you can do. Anybody that listens to podcasts, if you check out today's survival show with Bob Maynes, he's an alarm salesman. Sells alarm systems, has been doing it for many years. He has a podcast on alarm systems and stuff like that in your home and security. Really great podcast, so I'll put the link down below. So check out his podcast. Also, Jack Spirko over at the Survival Podcast. Jack is another excellent podcaster, and he's talked about security and stuff, home security, before. I'll just tell you right now, I'm not an expert in securities and alarm systems. That is not my expertise. I'll tell you that right now. So if anybody out there that watches this video that is and wants to chime in on some things that I may have missed, or anybody that you may have some suggestions that I missed, please feel free to leave comments and stuff like that, video responses or whatever. So we talked about a monitored alarm system. Next thing is storm shutters. Just about every house that you see has a shutter on them. The majority of those shutters are non-functional unless you're down in like hurricane zones and stuff like that where they are functional. But think about maybe installing some storm shutters. Not only will they protect your house against storms, but you can also use that after a disaster type situation, or if you go on an extended vacation or whatever the case may be, you can use those shutters to close up those windows. Because most of the burglaries, most of the time, 60% of the time actually, burglaries will occur through an unlocked open window. So your tip number one is lock your windows, lock your doors, keep all that stuff locked. We don't live in a world like we used to. I know when I was growing up, and I'm not that old, I'm only 33, but I remember when I was growing up, we used to sleep with our doors unlocked all the time. It was no big deal. Front door open, screen door open, everything. Nowadays, it's a little bit more difficult to do that. It's just a sign of the times changing, unfortunately. Unless you live way out in the rural areas where you don't have that problem, And I don't live in a high crime area, so yes, we've left our door unlocked occasionally just because we forgot. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. There's a lot of stuff you can do around your house as well, like set up a perimeter around your house. I have a fence in my backyard. That's one layer of security for somebody that wants to come into my house. Not only do they have to come through the woods, but they also have to cross my fence to get into my backyard and then up to my back door. Well, once you've crossed those couple of barriers, at that point, the intentions on my side, your intentions are pretty bad. So I have to do what I need to do to protect myself and my family at that point, because you've already crossed those external barriers that I've set up for you not to cross. So you can set up things like fences, shrubbery, thorn bushes, stuff like that are really great, especially up around windows. Keep your shrubs real low, cut low, because you don't want somebody hiding behind a bush or a shrub. If you walk up and unlock your door at night or whatever, you don't want people hiding, in those. So keep those cut low. Like I said, you can put thorn bushes out there to kind of help, with protection as well. Some of the other cheap things you can do, some people may not think about, is external lighting. I have some floodlights. For example, this is a floodlight I just bought recently to put on add to my outside here. It's just a mini twin floodlight. It's 300 watts. They're used the quartz halogen bulbs. It's great. It shines out in my backyard. There's two heads on there, so it shines out pretty bright on the backyard. Plus I have floodlights at the top on my deck that also shine out too. So exterior lighting helps a lot. So think about exterior lighting. If you're able to buy or to replace your doors, get solid core doors. Most of the doors now that they're installing on houses nowadays are not solid core wood doors. They are foam filled or have a styrofoam type inner layer. They're not solid core doors. They can be punched through real easily. And yes, bullets will pass through those very easily, contrary to what people might think. A lot of people think if you're in a house that a bullet will not penetrate the walls of the house. Yes, bullets will penetrate the walls of your house. So you need to take those kind of steps to kind of help. Along with, we talked a little bit about camera systems. You can add camera systems inside your residence. Like I said, those can be accessed from remote locations now. So if you're at work or whatever, you can access your camera systems. A lot of good camera systems and stuff out there. Again, I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to really touch on that much. If somebody is, feel free. Other things to think about in the house. I don't like burglar bars on windows. If you live in a type of an area where you have to have burglar bars, my personal opinion is move. I don't live in that type of area, nor will I ever live in that type of area. I just don't like that many people, for one, and I don't like downtown suburban areas. But that's just my opinion. I've seen people die in houses with burglar bars because the people inside cannot get the burglar bars open to get out of the house in case of a fire. I just don't like them. But you still need some other protection on your windows. Now, this is what I've been doing with my windows. I've done them for years, and I call it my redneck burglar bar, or redneck window protection. And basically, all it is just it's a 7/8 inch dowel rod that you can buy at Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's. They come in like 4-foot sections for, I don't know, $1, I think, or so, depending on how thick you get them. And what you'll do is you measure the length from the top of the window, when it's closed, the top of the window all the way up to the top of the window sill. And you just measure that length, cut you off a section of dowel rod, put it inside your window, and push it over to the side where it really can't be seen from the outside. And now you have a way that people from the outside cannot raise that window up. Even if it was unlocked, they're going to have a difficult time raising that window up. And it's still easy to get out in case you have to get out in case of a fire. Anybody can reach up in there, pull that dowel rod out, open that window, and still exit the premises in case of a fire. So think about solutions like that, because if you have kids and you teach your kids how to get out of a house in case of a fire, you don't want those burglar bars. You don't want stuff that's going to be difficult for them to get out, because last thing you want is your kid dying in your fire because it's something that you did and you didn't teach them how to do it. So that's an easy way to do. Easy, something easy and cheap to do. I've done this with all my low-level windows on all of my ground-level floors of the house, so it makes it easier. Also, doors. Talking about doors again. Nowadays, and I guess it may have always been this way, when contractors and stuff build new homes, they put in doors. The door frame, or your door hinge that goes into the door frame, those screws are not that long. I'll give you an example. This little screw right here is a 1/2 inch long. That's what came out of my door jambs of my house. A 1/2 inch long screw. Anybody could kick through that door and that door would come open real easily, even with a deadbolt, because your hinges and stuff, that's your weak points in your door. So what you need to do is go along and put 3 to 4 inch screws in your door jambs on all your doors. That's going to help give that door more protection for being kicked in and whatnot. Do this in your strike plates of your locks as well. 3 to 4 inch screws, another cheap little fix. Also, kind of jumping back to windows a little bit, or doors, you can buy these little first alert little alarms. They're battery operated, they're cheap, they have this little tape on the back. You can take them and stick them on things, and what they do is you can set them, and they have a little magnetic piece right here, and once this magnetic piece is separated from the base, it makes a little noise. That's going to give you a little bit of a early warning, per se, if somebody were to break in. They're not very loud, so you need to be mindful of that, but it's going to give you a little bit of an early warning. Other things to think about in your house is having fire extinguishers on all areas, all levels of your house, and preferably every room of your house. You want a good ABC fire extinguisher, as you can see here, ABC, and basically an ABC fire extinguisher will extinguish wood, paper, stuff like gas, and electrical stuff. So check them out. The size, I'd get a decent size one. This is a 3-pound fire extinguisher that I have down here in my basement. I have a bigger one out in my garage, and I need to actually put a bigger one down here, a 20-pound or so down here as well. But smoke detectors, change your smoke detector batteries every 6 months. If you fall into do the daylight savings time, change your smoke detectors or your smoke detector batteries. Carbon monoxide detectors are also another excellent thing to have in your house, especially if you have kerosene heaters that you run in the wintertime, stuff like that. Have carbon monoxide detectors. I've been out on houses many times, worked deaths from carbon monoxide poisoning. So another thing to think about. Another thing real quick is first aid. You guys know I'm a big proponent of having first aid supplies in your house. You can put first aid equipment anywhere. This is just an example here, a little tackle box that I've had for years, and it's got basic first aid supplies in it. You can go can get pretty elaborate from there, however you see fit. But anyway, this is just some things I hope that got you kind of thinking about and thinking along, and some cheaper ways to kind of protect your house, with the main ways being the little dowel rod for your windows, change your screws out, and change your exterior lighting out, maybe get some brighter lighting and stuff like that around your house. So I appreciate your views and when watching this video. Again, if you have any comments or anything, leave them below. If I missed something, leave it below. Everybody likes to learn. That's why I kind of do these videos, to kind of learn. Again, I'm no expert in home security, so if you are, feel free to chime in your comments. So again, this has been part 1. On the second part, we'll talk about survival guns and guns going to home security. Talk about the guns. A lot of people like to talk about guns. So until then, I appreciate your views, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.